Ever had a coworker that was so annoying that you came up with a devious plan to get them back for all the pain and suffering they caused? Today, we've got 14 people who decided to give their coworkers from hell a taste of their own medicine. I work running a machine for a company that puts out products for customers. We have a new hire who we'll call Bob. In order to help Bob, I run the more difficult product while the supervisor continues to train Bob. I do this so he can concentrate on learning the new stuff and just run all the easy product. But Bob starts to get very arrogant. Bob starts talking smack about how high his numbers are compared to everyone else's. Bob starts leaving snide notes like, I ran 30,000 pieces on this machine. You should have no problems reaching the same numbers. Bad move, Bob. So I decided to run all the easy product that night. I run 78,000 pieces and leave Bob with all of the difficult products to run. I leave Bob a note that reads, ran almost 80,000 product. You should be able to run at least that much tomorrow. I come in the next day and Bob didn't leave a note. I check his log. He only managed to run 18,000 pieces of product. Have not seen a note from Bob since. Worth it. Don't you love it when the new person is just so cocky and arrogant and they think they're just going to be the next best star employee? Clearly, this guy got knocked down a peg after he realized that they were making life easy for him to train so that eventually he could get into some of the more difficult stuff, but not before embarrassing himself and calling people out for being too slow and not producing enough product. Hopefully, Bob learned something from this and continued to still go on to become a good employee, and maybe just humbled himself a little bit. So I like to bring my own food into the office. We have a share fridge, and I have my own food in tubs with my name on them. A coworker would sometimes not see the names on the food and think it was theirs, so they would heat it up, eat it, then apologize. Last month, I had enough. I ordered a bag of ghost peppers and put the full bag into a big pot of chili that would last for several days. Midweek, my lunch went missing, and I was waiting for the person who took it to get a shock when they ate it. In reality, what happened was someone got sent home sick. The next day, they were off, and I was told they went to the doctors for stomach pains. My manager agreed it was on the person who took my lunch without knowing how spicy it was, and I should not be held liable if they eat something of someone else's that doesn't agree with them. They were fired the next day for theft of property and told they would not be given a reference. There's nothing worse than that person who just doesn't understand the boundary of the shared fridge. Just because you're sharing a fridge with your coworkers doesn't mean that they have to share their food with you. I can think of at least two different jobs that I had where I very clearly put my name on something and it just disappeared. That's so freaking annoying, especially when you work in a place where you would otherwise have to leave to go get food if you didn't bring any of your own. A lady on our team never did any work. She just played solitaire. Eventually, it got to the point where we were uninstalling the games from her computer accounts via the local admin accounts. One day, I noticed she still had a game on her PC, even after we removed the default ones. So when she left the office and left her PC logged on, I got on it and found the game shortcut on her desktop. Then I changed everything so when she clicked on the shortcut, it would open the Wikipedia page on work ethic instead of the game. She doesn't play games in the office anymore. It always makes me wonder how some people think they're going to just skate by and get away with not actually doing the job that they applied to do. Because eventually, whether you get written up for playing games on your company PC on the clock, or you get written up for performance issues, I just don't understand where you think this is going to work out for you if you're just going to be lazy and not actually do your freaking job. I had a picture of my mom and me on my desktop. This guy, Pat, kept commenting on how hot my mom was. He was about the same age as her. He did this for about a month, so I asked another guy at work what Pat's daughter's name was. She is around the same age as me. Found her on Facebook and asked her if she would help play a prank on her dad. I then went out on a date with his daughter, took a picture of the two of us drinking out of the same drink with two straws, and proceeded to put it in a heart-shaped frame on my desk. Finally, I got another manager to tell Pat that I had gotten a new girl and was head over heels for her. He came straight to my office. I didn't say a word, and all I heard from behind me was, "What are you doing with my daughter?" To this day, he hasn't asked when my mom is calling next. Now that one is petty. And how amazing was it that his daughter was 100% willing to do this prank against her father? What does that say? Somehow I have a feeling she knows her father is kind of a sleazebag as well. I work construction and have a second job delivering pizzas. I knew this coworker from the construction job. He was the kind of guy that would watch you make a mistake, then berate you and call you an idiot for that mistake. Not a nice guy by any right. Another thing he loved to do was brag about how doting his wife was, how hot his girlfriend was, and how much they sacked when his wife thought he was working overtime. Well, one day I got a delivery with a familiar name. I arrived at the house, knocked, and he opened the door. He looked quite surprised. Hey, I didn't know you delivered pizzas. Yeah, when work gets slow. Anyway, that'll be $15. He hands me 16 and looks kind of smug about it. I take the cash and am about to turn around when I say, just loud enough for anyone inside to hear, "Hey, is this your girlfriend's house or you and your wife's place?" The color drained from his face and he handed me an extra $20. Damn, hopefully that extra $20 was enough to get him out of that sticky situation, but honestly, what a dirt bag. When I worked at a pizza place, we had to do boxes. They came as a stack of flat cardboard with the creases and perforations, and we had to fold them up and have them ready. Everyone was responsible for doing this. If you didn't have anything to do, you folded boxes. One of my coworkers hated doing them and would constantly wait around while someone else folded boxes and then deliver them to the front, aka take credit for them. Another coworker got petty and started intentionally denting the boxes so they looked crushed. That way, when Lazy Bum took them up front, the boss would yell at him for messing up the boxes. You have to be a special kind of lazy to not even realize that the boxes you're bringing to the front are absolutely messed up. Makes me wonder what else this person did while they were on the clock. Probably a whole lot of nothing. My coworker Kyle never shuts up. Likes to one up people, is loud, gets upset very easily, and likes to pull rank on people when he has none. So at 7 a.m. this morning, I placed a small Bluetooth speaker in the HVAC duct above his head and have been playing Stayin' Alive by the Bee Gees on repeat since then. It's only barely audible and only he can hear it. So far, this is his discovery. 7:30 a.m. I noticed him stop, look around, close his eyes, and seemingly try to listen for something. He shook it off and continued talking. 8:15 a.m. He mentioned a car driving by playing some music that sounded familiar. No car had passed. 8:45 a.m. Started humming the song after I turned it down. 9:30 a.m. Asked what music I was playing on my computer. Came over, searched, found nothing. Looked at other coworker who just shrugged. Went back to talking. 10 a.m. I turned up the music when he was around the corner. He came running back. I turned it down. He asked a customer, "Did you hear that?" Customer said, "Hear what?" He shook his head and ignored it. 3:02 p.m. He broke down and confronted us, shouting stuff, "I know you're doing this," etc., etc., but he has no proof. He's now just sitting outside smoking and pouting. I guess that's one way to get someone back for hours of just being absolutely annoying. And don't you just love those coworkers that try to pull rank when they have absolutely no authority over you whatsoever? Come on, dude, get off your high horse and just do your freaking job like the rest of us. The guy beside me at work used to tease me about random stuff, so I grabbed a spare keyboard and plugged it into his PC, which was easy to obscure since his desk was a jumble of wires. Throughout the day, I would hold down the shift key while he was typing. It was especially effective when he was trying to type in his password, as he couldn't see that I was messing it up. I'd lock his PC when he turned around to talk to coworkers. Every time he'd leave his PC, I'd turn on the caps lock key. When I saw that his email client was open and he wasn't looking, I'd open a new email message. He'd mumble, "Crap, who was I writing to?" On the day I got busted, he unplugged all the USB cables, found the extra cable, and yanked it. The keyboard it was attached to flew across my desk and slammed into a bookshelf, and I started laughing hysterically. That one actually low key reminds me of the time in high school in the computer lab when someone had taken electrical tape and stuck it to the bottom of the mouse to block the laser. So it looked like the mouse should be working and they could click, but anytime they moved it, the cursor wouldn't work. And it took them nearly 15 minutes to figure out that there was tape on the bottom of the mouse. Hilarious. I worked with a god awful employee who made my workday miserable, didn't do her job, wasted company time, went through my belongings, moved my desk, and ultimately got caught stealing company property by me. I got her fired, then got a raise and promotion because of it. The best part is, all of this was done in front of the whole sales team and all the managers, about 20 of them. They all watched this happen, and they all watched her be escorted out of the building. That just sounds like a sweet case of karma. Being the person who's on the tail end of a coworker from hell and then being the person who gets them fired is probably the best revenge in the world. There was a middle aged lady in the office who, for some reason, was mean to me when I started. She would make up bad stories about me and even shout it at the whole office once that I have such a bad attitude that I don't deserve to be here and cursed at me. This morning, I had just gotten into the elevator when I saw her enter the lobby. She was bringing a lot of things with her, so her hands were full, and she shouted to hold the door for her. I just pretended to push the open button as I watch her run for it, but oops, it closed before she reached it. Both our areas are on the fourth floor. Minutes later, she arrived at her desk, panting. Turns out it took a while before my elevator came back down, and the other elevator was closed for maintenance, so she decided to just use the stairs. She kept staring daggers at me and talking about how annoyed she was, but oh well, at least she got some morning exercise. How are you gonna make someone's life a living hell and then expect them to do even the smallest favor for you? Another case of wonderful karma. I started working in a photo lab for a popular store a few years ago, and I was trained by a girl who always made me really nervous and constantly complained about everything I did. Anyway, at the end of the night, I would have to remove this film rack out of the film processor and put it in a bowl of water to keep the rollers from drying out. In the morning, when she would open, she would take it down from the shelf by the sink and put it back in the film processor for the day. In my own form of petty revenge, I began to fill the bowl each night exactly to the brim. Then I would set it on the very edge of the top shelf, which was just out of her reach. In the mornings, she would have to stand on tiptoe to get it down, and inevitably, the water would slosh down on her as she fumbled with the bowl. She complained at me in passing a few times, but I kept it up. She started putting up signs that said not to fill the bowl all the way or not to put it on the top shelf, but I ignored these and would cackle to myself a little each night as I did this. It's such a petty revenge, but I really got a kick out of hearing the other coworkers tell me how she would storm out of the lab in a huff with water dripping down her face and a damp shirt every morning. A few times, it really just toppled down and soaked her completely. It warms the cockles of my heart. It warms the cockles of my heart. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase before, but that is hysterical. And what a way to get back at someone who just cannot see anything positive about anything that you're doing. Petty revenge, but well deserved in my eyes. Because if they're not going to see anything good in what you're doing, just don't do anything good for them, right? I put glitter in my coworker's air vents because he drew a phallic object on my rear windshield. Keep in mind, I live in Arizona, and you use AC most of the year. That's a pretty good way to get back at someone. If you're gonna mess with my car, then I'm gonna mess with your car, right? Except glitter had to have been a major pain in the you know what to clean up. This one doesn't have any context. It's just the revenge story, but I think this is pretty fabulous. Simple. I posted an ad on Craigslist for an insanely good deal for a 42-inch plasma. Then I left my coworker's office number, cell number, and email as ways to get in touch. I really want to know what this coworker did to deserve having their phone at work, their cell phone, and their email get blown up for something that they weren't selling. Last May, we got a new employee. He would constantly disappear and come back clearly high and slouch around doing nothing to help. So I fabricated an online customer review in which he called a customer a C, and he was fired immediately. Again, that petty revenge that results in that annoying coworker getting fired because of you has to just be the most heartwarming thing to ever happen. Or as that other person would say, warm the cockles of your heart. Anyway, if you have a petty coworker revenge story, you know I want to hear about it in the comments down below. That's all I got. Bye bye.